Hello and welcome to this shortened edition of Side Retired, the MLB podcast, similar to how we did last night. This is just a tiny little YouTube exclusive where we are talking to you about what happened today around the league. Not much to report about what actually happened. It's more sort of what didn't happen. The MLB agreed to meet with the players and the owners got together, and nothing really happened in that meeting. Shocker. I mean, Jeff Passan tweeted out something about this. So we will get that if you're watching on the YouTube, which of course you have to be in order to be watching this episode. Baseball labor update. There is no deal. There never was going to be one today. MLB made a proposal. The reaction among the players was not positive. Few on either side expected it to be. The question is how soon the MLBPA counter, spring training starting on time, is in peril. I think that last line is probably the biggest thing to talk about. Jack, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think this is pretty standard negotiation tactic. They've just resumed negotiations for the first time in over a month. And they're pretty much just talking about core economic issues. So lots of like the fun talk about like if you want a like new playoff structure or universal DH. That's not what's really being discussed. It's more so like minimum player wage, luxury tax, excuse me, and just regular like payroll distribution among the league. So that kind of stuff, you're not going to see a conflict like that, especially when you're dealing about the type of figures these people are resolved this quickly. I assume the owners completely lowballed their argument, barely changing the current system for a slight improvement. That's probably no surprise. I mean, I'm not really like this didn't really change my opinion at all about how the negotiations are going. Obviously, spring training is a threat to start on time. I mean, I doubt we're at the point where we're questioning whether opening day is going to go, but considering, around in a normal year, right, this time you're getting psyched for pitchers and catchers reporting in about a month. And the fact that, this negotiation seems to be going nowhere, seems like time is the only thing that's going to motivate these two sides.
And I think the key thing is that the things that were reportedly talked about today were, are players going to get to free agency quicker? Is there going to be an increase in the pay for guys making league minimum over, I think now it's 575,000. So maybe it's going to be more than that. Super 2 players maybe getting more. But I think this graphic they are seeing is key. The Mets payroll is currently supposed to be $235 million. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we have the Guardians at currently $200 million less than the Mets. Pretty hard to be competitively balanced when one team is $200 million more. Obviously, that seems like something they're going to have to address, talk about. And I don't really know. We've had interviews recently with Ken Davidoff, with Sweeney Murdy, where we did briefly mention what do you do with stuff like that. And you can't really do a salary floor or a salary cap because I don't think the players will ever go for either of those. So who knows?
I think floor could potentially work. And then I like increasing the luxury tax where I don't think we should have it that be lowered. I think the proposal by Bob Nightingale's suite was around 230 million, which the Mets right now are the only team that eclipses that. And you wonder, do the Yankees and teams like the Dodgers, Yankees, maybe Red Sox, or if like a team like the Cubs wants to go out and spend because they are a big market, will they then get closer to 220, 230 if the luxury tax is pushed higher? Because teams like the Yankees or Dodgers or even the Mets, as they've shown, they're not limited at all financially. It's just, do they want to risk, the limited international signing pool money, loss of draft picks by exceeding the tax for a certain number of years? So having that increased tax will lead, to higher payrolls. The players, these top echelon players getting paid more money, but that's not really the issue of these negotiations. It's more so guys who have their league service time manipulated in order to have them have these minimum wages that are really, frankly, unfair, especially when you have guys who are entering like the 29 season. I know this is a pretty common example, but Nestor Cortez for the Yankees, he's been in the league for several years, but is still getting paid like he's a rookie because of lack of consistent amount of innings per year. So to have a guy like that who's about to be 30 years old being paid like he's 25 just frankly isn't fair. And it's, if you're getting a guy like that, should be getting paid what he's worth, especially given the quality that you're going to get him at.
I think one of the keys is like the current status of paying the luxury tax. Steve Cohen, I think even he didn't say it outwardly because then there'd be like collusion talks, but I'm pretty sure as of right now, the Mets, who are $50 million over the luxury tax already, and probably will go a lot farther than that, are only going to be paying roughly $10 million in luxury tax. And when your payroll is $230 million, I doubt Steve Cohen cares about an additional $10 million to make his team that much better. The other piece of news that did kind of drop today was that New Era announced their dueling hats. This is an interesting, a little, I can't see a baseball fan wearing it. I'm sorry, but I don't know. I guess they're going for maybe World Series rivals because you see Marlins, Yankees, Dodgers, Yankees, Braves. I don't even know how to describe this one.
I so I am pretty far in terms of you get one team, that is your team, you don't get to change. I'm like, there are people who say, oh, my NL team or my playoff team. I am strongly opposed to both those, and that is nowhere close to as far as the shenanigans New Era is trying to pull for a cheap extra $45 for a hat. My problems with this, I cannot even begin to comprehend. First, the color of the hat. That's before, without even mentioning the blasphemous logo that's on. New York Yankees hats are not red. Obviously the Marlins don't use red either. I assume there's a ton of teams out there who are also appalled. Yankees hats, if you want to have a variant, can be blue, black, white, gray, some shade, tan, whatever, of any of those colors. Those are acceptable colors. I have a red Yankees hat to embroider this team to have the colors of their arch rivals done side by side with their nemesis is just appalling to me. That one, who buys these disgusting pieces of merchandise. I go to school in New York City and I constantly see people on the subway with like Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Lakers collab hats. I'm like, what is the purpose of this? I don't understand. Who's buying a Yankees Red Sox hat? If you own one of the I will say right now, I don't know if we appreciate you guys enough. I really obviously love all the supporters of this podcast. If you are currently wearing a Yankees Red Sox collaborator hat, turn off. I do not want you giving us your time or your attention or any clicks. It is horrendous for me to see that this is being used and was being tweeted as something to actually be. People will give you their money to buy something that represents not only just two teams that have hated each other for over 100 years, have 100 years of history, and clearly, obviously, the Red Sox sent the Yankees home the past in 2018 and 2021, and you can still show fandom for both teams. Just appalls me, and probably I'm not gonna lie, I will be losing sleep tonight over thinking about this disgusting, horrendous piece of merchandise.
So apparently the key is that they're going for, and that's a Brooklyn Dodger, not a Red Sox, so a little bit better. But same thing, Brooklyn Dodger and Yankee fans always hate each other. They faced each other in World Series like crazy. But apparently they're doing it in order to honor previous World Series. Like you can get a embroidered 1986, a Mets logo and a Red Sox logo on. If you're a Met fan, you're just getting an 86 World Series hat. You're not going to want the Red Sox logo on. And if you're a Red Sox fan, you don't want to think about the 1986 World Series. So the winner of the World Series would just want a hat with their team in the logo, and the loser of the World Series probably doesn't want to remember losing the World Series. So I just don't get the concept of it.
I 100% agree. Like thinking about obviously Yankees and Braves, that's more of like a late 90s type of rivalry. It's not the same history, but that comparison, like I wouldn't want this hat as the 03 ALCS. I assume like Boston, it's probably the same. I don't know how they feel about 04, but just to own any piece of thing with the Red Sox logo, I don't care what it is, it just sickens me. And so like these new ideas of like having hats with logos upside down, or let's pick the worst possible color that reflects this team and make a hat with that. It's just we've gone too far. You have 30 hats. You have every team has their own hat. Just sell that. Get a hat. Don't need to be super artsy with this. It's just a baseball cap. If you want a different color, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different choices for you. Pick a different sport. Pick a different hat. Leave traditional logos alone.
All righty, Jack Staffenbeck rant for the night. There you go, done. You can find this on our YouTube page. You can also find all our thoughts and all our fun on sideretiredpod.com. Maybe we have an article written about this in the future if all of a sudden we see someone wearing it. Or, you can tweet Jack or Side Retired Pod on Twitter and say, found someone wearing this. And I'm sure we will retweet it and we will blast someone about it. But in general, short episode. We'll be back on Monday. We have a nice interview scheduled with someone that'll be posted Tuesday morning on the Apple Podcast and on the YouTube. We might drop an episode this weekend covering the top 10 second baseman. Who knows? Lots of surprises up ahead. Also check out the website. I know David's working on a nice article. Matt's working on a nice article. And I did the 21st century Met lineup that sort of counteracts David's article from last week about the top 10 or the Yankees century lineup. So if you want to write one about your favorite team, you can email us sideretiredpod@gmail.com and we will definitely take a look at it and give you a shout out for it. So Jack, unless you have anything else to add, do not say it. Don't you dare say it. Nice and simple. I get to say it today. With that, the side is retired.